One of the interesting things I'm always looking for are industries that could be modeled on a train layout. Now, having recently moved to Cambridge, there are quite a few online industries. Well, not as nearly as many as there used to be, unfortunately, but there are still some. And one of the bigger ones, at least it seemed to be, at one time anyway, was Babcock and Wilcox, which is right down in Cambridge, down in what is known as Galt, which is one of the three towns that Cambridge is made up of. And it's right at a major intersection of Dundas and Hespeler, so you can't miss it. It's quite a big facility, and it has quite a bit of track work. So you could either add this to a fairly substantial layout, or it doesn't have to be that big of a layout, but it'll be your main industry. Or if you want to build a switching layout, this would just be it. You would just model the industry and have the interchange with the railway or railways nearby. So let's get started. There are two main things that make Babcock and Wilcox very interesting. Number one is they have two switchers on site, 70-tonner General Electrics, which are older engines now, but they're a neat looking little thing. They look like a miniature version of, say, a GM or old Alco switcher with a cab on the end. And also, B&W ships over-dimensional loads, and if not over-dimensional, at least loads on flatcars and stuff. So a lot of really cool stuff that it always looks neat on a mall railroad, let alone in real life. So the first one we'll look at is the 70-tonner here. And for those of you who have ever been to Port Stanley, you might recognize the paint scheme as it used to run there as number L4. And it is in the London Port Stanley colors. So that unit was originally leased to Babcock and Wilcox by a fellow by the name of Don Broadbear. Unfortunately, it is no longer operational and is out of service. It just so happens that Don Broadbear also had another 70-tonner, which currently was on loan to Waterloo Central Railway, which is a tourist railway north of Cambridge in Waterloo. They also actually do some freight service up there. So now this unit was then leased to Babcock and Wilcox to replace the L4. Now looking at Babcock and Wilcox from Google Maps, you can see the track configuration. And as you can see, there's the two big buildings. There's lots of track running, a couple tracks going into the buildings. There's a runaround track there. You can see some interchange tracks up above. Now a lot of flatcars are stored in one part out of service. There's some parallel tracks here. The one to the north is CN, and the one to the closest to us south is the CP. Another interchange track up there as well. Now let's look at it with the satellite view. Once again, you can see the track configuration. You can see the switcher there with the car. And another flat car over there. There's the flat cars out of service on the interchange track up there. Once again, you can kind of see the CN and CP. The CN line's basically out of service now. And the interchange track at the top. When the GEXR Railway was handling the CN business in the area of Kitchener, Waterloo, and Cambridge, they would come down on the CN track I mentioned as now out of service, and they would pull loads out of Babcock and Wilcox. Unfortunately, today they are no longer doing that. CN doesn't come down as the track is out of service, except for some future GO train plans. But CP still does service the plant. So here's a picture, and this is by Josh Roth. Down at Hamilton Harbor. So these are some loads that were taken down by train down to the harbor and then moved and put on the ship and then went from there. I believe it went to some nuclear site in Ohio. I'll leave the link in the description so you can click on that. It's on railpictures.ca, so you can look up yourself, and full credit to the photographers for these shots. Next up are some shots taken from Chris Vanderheide. Once again, I'll leave a link to their blog, and he's got a couple of nice shots here. There's more on his blog actually. Basically, you've got GEXR, Goddard Exeter Railway, towing a Schnabel car. Those things are huge, so it's quite the load being pulled here, and it was pulled up once again up, and I believe up to Georgetown again, which is typically what they would do, and then meet the CN, and CN would then take it down to Hamilton Harbor to be put on a ship. Last photo I have, taken by Marcus Stevens, was taken on September 13th, 2017, which very well may have been, if not the last, one of the last loads to move via the CN trackage out of Babcock and Wilcox. This shot here actually is going over the bridge at Hespeler. So by this time the train's moved up out of Cambridge, got underneath the 401, and is now going through the very scenic town of Hespeler on its way back to Guelph, and then eventually to Georgetown to meet with the CN. Since our move to Cambridge in August of this year, I hadn't seen any action at Babcock and Wilcox. I was beginning to wonder if they were still shipping by rail. Well, sure enough they are. Just the other day, we were out for a walk, and up a hill above the plant, I heard a noise, looked down, and there's 1556 pulling that flat car out with a large load out of one of the buildings. I do apologize for the shaky video, as I had to magnify quite a bit with my phone to get it, but here's some footage of it doing that. And so in summary, I'd just like to say that I think this would be an amazing industry to model on your model train layout. Like I said, it could be just a switching layout, or it could be a portion of a much larger layout or a medium-sized layout. But the interest with the small industrial switchers and the interesting loads in that of all kinds of shapes and sizes through the years, I think it would be a really neat thing to model, and I hope you enjoyed this video. And if you did, please click the like button and potentially subscribe to my channel. Thank you.